It is March 3rd, 1:02 p.m., and we will start the State of Hawaii Environmental Advisory Council. And I'll introduce myself as the chair, Dawn Hager Nordblom, and I'm on the island of Maui, and no one in the office here with me. And if the board members can be, advisory council members can introduce themselves, and then if staff would like to introduce themselves, as well as Mary Alice and members of the public.
Hi, I'm Jay Stone. I'm on Oahu. Um, I'm in my office and there's many other people around me. I'm in a cubicle setting, so there's lots of people around me today. I'm vice chair. Aloha.
I'm
I am oh,
oh go ahead. Go ahead, Michelle. Sorry.
Michelle Lefebvre in Hilo on the Big Island, Hawaii. I'm chair of the Exemptions Committee.
Okay, and I'm Mark Gordon on the Big Island committee. Also on the committee on the Kona side of the island, Waikoloa.
And I'm Rachel Sprague. I'm calling from the island of Lanai, and there's no one here with me.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm Mary Alice Evans, the Director of the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development and staff to the EAC. And with us here are Tom Eisen, wave Tom, Senior Planner, Isabel Scholes, our Planner 3, Eo Kepa Fredericks,
Aloha. Aloha.
And Daniel Pham, our Administrative Assistant. Thank you, Chair.
Congratulations to your new staff. I appreciate the fact that you're able to find somebody to help Tom.
Me too.
Yes.
Three.
Yes. Okay, so first item on the agenda is review and adoption of the minutes of February 3rd, 2026. Do people need to take a look at them? And or have you already looked at them?
I took a look. I had one comment under exemptions. I gotta find it. Oh yeah, on page 2 of 5, under item C. So it's 3C. The second not bulleted line. Type 3, part 1, number 8, the council suggested moving part 2, part 3 to be consistent across the document. That should be the part 2. So just changing it from part 3 to part 2.
Thank you.
So I think only comment I have.
Thank you, Michelle. Does anyone else have any comments?
I didn't have any comments.
Okay. Could I get a motion to approve the minutes and a second?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Jay.
With the edit?
Oh, yes, motion
Yes.
to approve Michelle's edits for item number C, type 3, part 1, page 2 of 5.
Yep.
I
Motion to
second.
okay.
Thank you. Okay. I believe.
I think or is there any discussion?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Is there anybody who wants to discuss anything? And I was going to actually see if there's any members of the public who haven't introduced themselves, because I do see some names on here that, yeah.
Well, can you click on people at the top of the Zoom?
I think
Like it's Eric Takamoto and Alan
Yeah.
Simeon from DWS.
Yeah.
If you click on people, I can see the list of names.
Yeah. I think those are the only two from County of Hawaii.
Okay, thank you. All right. Yeah, just put it over on the side. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So is it Eric, Michelle from County of Hawaii?
Eric Takamoto was on our call last month.
Yes. And then,
Representing the County of Hawaii DWS. And
okay,
Alan Simeon was also on our call last month.
great. Okay. Okay. So what kind of, I guess we'll go to discussion for the minutes. Does anyone else have any discussion points? I didn't think so. I think
No.
the DLNR was quite comprehensive last year. I mean, not last year, last month when they came and did their edited updates. So
Do you mean any discussion on the meeting minutes or on DLNR's list?
no, just on the actual like meeting minutes. I thought that everything looked quite good, and I don't think there's any other discussion except for what we approved. Or you approved. Okay. Sorry
Yeah,
about
and
that.
I don't have any yeah, no additional discussions on the motion. I'm ready to vote.
Okay. All in favor, raise your hand. I can't see
I
Jay.
think we lost Jay.
I was like, I can't see Jay and I can't see Mark, but maybe it's the way I'm on the view here.
Mark's there. He's got his hand up.
All I see, oh, there you are. All I see is Michelle, and now I see Mark.
CJ on the list of people.
Yeah,
Move the list of people.
there we
back
go.
up. Right. Participants, I guess.
If you click on that.
Let's see. Looks like we
Okay, now I see Rachel. Okay, I see Michelle, ERP, Rachel, Mark,
lost him.
but not Jay. Okay, but I think we still have quorum. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So, is Jay by any chance in the waiting room? Should we?
No chair.
No chair. Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and vote on the meeting minutes. I only see Michelle myself, so I'm assuming Rachel and Mark have their hands up.
Everyone has their hands up.
Okay,
Correct.
great.
Yeah, if
Okay.
you Dawn, if you go up to the top of your screen, like
Oh,
at the top, there might be a view, and if you
I
view
got it.
gallery, it should let you see everyone at the same time.
Yes, you're right. Now I do
Yes.
see it. Okay.
I
thank
was
you.
in a different mode earlier today and got myself stuck, so I had to figure out how to get out of it.
At least I'm not like, cat face or upside down or. Oh, ERP has mentioned that they have construction and fire drills perhaps going on. So if we hear something that we should just let them know if it's an issue on our end for the video and audio. So just FYI. Okay, Mary Alice, we'll go to your director's report, item number 3.
Thank you, Chair, and members. We have 2 items under this. The first one is going to be updating the members on the status of bills that have been moving through the legislature that amend Chapter 343. Before I ask Tom to kind of provide that, I do want to note that some of these are ones that we're supporting and find that they have, we want to see what happens with them. And so I'll turn it over to Tom. Go ahead.
Okay, well, one of the bills that's slightly different is this GM, the governor's message for the nomination and confirmation of Mark.
Yeah.
Which we're strongly supporting, but I'm hearing now that it's been delayed. So it was scheduled for tomorrow, and that's one less thing I'll do tomorrow. Otherwise, the 3 bills that are still active that we're following are, let's start with SB 2322, and this expands, in general, it expands the use of historic sites trigger. And there's a Senate draft 1. It's been passed by a couple of committees, and it was passed unamended most recently by the judiciary, and it is still moving forward. So it's, I guess, all the committees in the Senate have heard it and passed it.
Is that the one that we've got? Chair, if I can expand a little bit on, we have submitted testimony on that. Okay, we have concerns with this measure because it adds 2 new types of actions to 343-5 subsection 4, which are the types of proposed actions for which an EA is required to be prepared. The Senate Draft 1 deleted criteria for determining where a potential historic site had important value to residents, including Native Hawaiians, and the second one would be to require proposals for historic properties determined to be eligible to be on the National Register of Historic Places, but without setting a criteria for this. So we found that the language is overly broad and could potentially apply to all property within the state of Hawaii, because there are no standards in this proposed language for determining whether a site was whether it had determined to have important value or could be a potential historic site. So we will be continuing to testify on it, and not opposed to the concepts as long as there are standards to which a agency or applicant can use to determine whether a potentially valuable site or a potential historic site is, who determines that and how is it determined? So that's.
Yeah, and just to follow, the earlier iteration of the bill did have these references to statutes or administrative processes, and the Senate Draft 1 took away that and replaced it with some words, but those words didn't include anything about who makes these determinations. So it left it very unclear and very potentially broad.
And those were determinations on whether the site, what did you say, was valuable, or
Yeah,
it wasn't eligibility?
Whether it's
Traditional cultural property or place on the National Register of Historic Places.
Why should take this off?
Because right, section 106, right, that law has criteria for determining eligibility.
So one of the trigger, this ad would add a trigger saying propose any use within any historic property that has important value to the Native Hawaiian people or to any other ethnic group of the state due to associations, and goes on and on. But all it has to do is says it's considered important, but doesn't say.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that part is, yeah, that's very broad.
So that means anyone could consider any property important for the entire state. And so that is, in my view, that's overly broad. And we would like to see some criteria. For that.
Another bill we're tracking is HB 1650, which, and now there's a House Draft 1 of it. It repeals the use of the Waikiki Special District from the list of triggers requiring environmental review.
And we are supporting that because, first of all, when it was put in this statute decades ago, there was probably a concern that the city and county of Honolulu didn't have the capacity to plan for Waikiki. And now we see that they're doing a Waikiki special area plan. They have quite extensive planning capacity, and Waikiki, as I think some of you are aware, is almost entirely developed. So that all of the protections for EV Kapuna will always be in place. the chances that there are, undisturbed natural resources there are very limited. So we think that it's not necessary for that to be a trigger.
And that has passed all the committees in the House that it was assigned to. It's again 1650 House Draft 1 at this point, and presumably will cross over. And then the last bill that is still alive that we've been tracking is HB 1979. And this, quickly summarized because it kind of has a lot, but it proposed to shorten the window to legally challenge an exemption or an acceptance determination for actions proposing affordable housing or clean energy projects. So it treats actions proposing affordable housing or clean energy projects. It's kind of making them less vulnerable.
So this is the 120 days that exemptions have as a public comment period for and looking at housing, affordable housing, and renewable energy projects, and giving them a shorter input that matches the input time, the public comment time for EAs. I think, yes.
Yeah, for challenging. This is for challenging a determination.
Yeah. So in some ways that it doesn't eliminate public the challenge period for these types of projects. These are the types of projects, as well as every project will have an opponent. These projects are particularly vulnerable. They also are very important for the state of Hawaii. Affordable housing and renewable energy are very important goals for us. And so having that longer challenge period of 3 months, 4 months, 4 months, doesn't seem warranted because it delays the project, adds to the cost of the project, and could just potentially make a project economically unfeasible.
Did we talk last meeting about having that apply to all projects rather than exclusively to?
Yeah, so our initial testimony on just the 1979, the original form of the bill, we did suggest that shortening the window to 30 days should apply to all exemptions, because now exemptions are published. So there's some discovery. In the past, where it was very difficult to do the discovery process, it was determined that a longer period was appropriate, but that's no longer necessary. So we thought that it's relevant for all exemptions, but the legislative committee wanted to keep it narrowly focused on the affordable housing and clean energy projects. So they disregarded our suggestion.
They're probably looking at what they think might be most likely to pass. So that's, we'll see what happens.
So,
For the public, I think you made the point last time, though, a little harder for the public to sort of track what's the challenge period for certain types of projects, for other projects. Should it go all the way through?
Consistency would be far better, but as long as maybe that will get we can get that added back in or added in, I should say, at some point in the legislative process. But in the meantime, we're supporting the reduction of the challenge for these two types of projects.
And again, there was a House Draft 2 of that, which ended up passing the last committee in the House. So it presumably will cross over and then go through similar set of hearings on the Senate side.
Mm-hmm.
am I reading the effective date correctly? 7/1/3000?
Yes.
They intentionally put defective dates so that
Yeah.
it forces a conference committee
Yeah.
meeting at the end to resolve.
The legislature does that almost routinely now because they don't want a bill to accidentally pass with exactly the same language and effective date on both sides. And instead of going to conference where they can use it as leverage in their negotiations on other bills and these bills, they if it had exactly the same language and effective date, it would go for floor votes immediately.
Hmm.
The legislators would lose some of their options for negotiating with their colleagues.
Interesting. Okay, well, thank you very much for the recap. I believe that Jay may also be tracking the bills as well, but I think he may discuss that in item number 6. Unless Jay, do you want to switch the agenda to go to number 6 real quick? You're on mute. Yeah, there you go.
Sure.
Is that
Yeah.
hopefully everybody's okay, and that way it's all the same topic.
Okay, sure. All tied together, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just have my own account on the legislature website. So the bills that had been mentioned before, I just track it. There's a tracking measure tool. Then you can generate a report, and then all I did was send that report to the. I didn't have your email, Mark, so I didn't send it to you, but I sent it to Dawn, Michelle, and to
Okay.
Rachel. So if I get your email, I can send that to you. It basically outputs it as a spreadsheet. And then the version that's online, like it generates a report online, it has links to the different bills, and then you can track through all the different things that have occurred. So the report gives you in what was the most recent item that occurred.
Jay, can I give you my email now? Can you take it down just so you have it?
Yep.
All right, sure. It's Mark, M-A-R-K,
Mhm.
Gordon, Gordon,
Mhm.
333. So it's Mark.Gordon, 333, three threes,
Mhm.
at gmail.com.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'll email the both of you right now too, so you can have each other's emails until the moment. Okay. Thanks, Jay. Is there anything else that you wanted to add for legislative committee by any chance?
No, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll go to item number 4, exemptions committee. Thank you, Michelle.
Chair, did you want to include an update on staff discussion on proposed rule updates, or do you want to defer that to later under announcements?
I'm open if you want to go to item number 5 versus item number 4.
Or you could take it out of order. You could take exemptions committee out of order since you have a participant waiting for that discussion.
Sure. So are we still going to go with Michelle for exemptions? Is
It
that
sounds
what
like we'll come back to 3B. And
Okay.
then we'll move on to 4.
She's
Okay.
So I know that both the DLNR and HHSC lists were published February 23rd. The public comment period on those revised lists go through March 10th. ERP, have you received any comments or?
Not yet, no.
Okay. All right. We don't always get comments, so that's fine. And then, so we'll wait until the next meeting to see if any comments come in, but ERP is really good at sort of sending those on as they come in and sending them to the agency so they can decide how to address those comments. Then it's DWS's list is item 4C. So Department of Water Supply, thank you, Eric, for sending the revised list. Really appreciated that. It really helped to have a redline version too. It always makes it really nice to be able to compare. And yeah, all the comments were addressed from what I saw. So you moved some things from type 1 to type 2, and in some cases 2 to 1. I saw the consistency on talking about slope stabilization, and that you'd moved all those to type 2 or part 2s. I didn't have any other further comments. Jay, did you get a chance to look through? I know about half of them were yours. If you had any other follow-up questions or comments on their revisions.
No, I did look at it. My only comment was on page 10 of 15 of the PDF of their exemption list. It starts with item 17.
Mhm.
And there was a change from security camera to surveillance systems. My only comment was there's other areas where they talk about security systems in the exemption list, but not security cameras. So security, comma, surveillance. And I wanted to know why was there this change? And it just goes to consistency because there's terms earlier in the document that refers to security, then comma, surveillance, then comma, and it's referring to all different types of systems. Is the
Eric?
intention that security systems are different from surveillance systems?
Yeah, the intent is that security systems is more like intrusion, whereas surveillance is typically just cameras.
So this item number 17 is referring to, because it talks about site security upgrades, fencing, access controls, intrusion alarm systems, surveillance systems, and telemetry. How is that different from the other areas of the exemptions that call out security separately?
In this one, I think it lists intrusion alarm systems. That's why it's where it
It's
previously was just security. So that's why I changed security cameras to surveillance to be more consistent with the previous where it
Revisions.
was, yeah, revisions.
Okay,
yeah,
that was the
makes
only
sense.
comment that I had. That now I understand. Thank you. That was it. That's all the comment I had.
Any other members have any comments on the revised list?
I did have a question. So
Mhm.
in the next, this list will be good for the next 7 years. Does the department who's doing this exemption list see any potential out of the box scenarios that, I'm sure they've addressed them all on this list, but things are changing, times are changing.
I think Tom reminds us on most of these calls that the list it doesn't have to be listed on
Right.
the list for the exemption
Yep.
to be made. So as long as it as the type of activity fits within the category. I'll let Ed pose the question to Eric, but I didn't want him to feel the pressure to say that yes,
Yeah.
they've captured every type of action, but
Yeah.
more the most common ones, right? The ones that DWS would use the most.
Yeah. The only reason why I say that is because we see on Maui a lot more break-ins, right? A lot more people are targeting public facilities because, they've got a lot of equipment and stuff. So I was just wondering if part of that is also the sign of the times, I guess.
Yeah, we tried to be as comprehensive as we could be with the list and think of not only what we presently are doing, but what potentially we could be doing in the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's possible we might not have included it, but yeah, if it's in the general, I guess thought of that item, that yeah, it's also covered.
Yeah. And I definitely want to make sure that your agency is covered, because it's just how things are right now. So I appreciate that.
That discussion thing has me ask a different question then. Do you think that the current list would include things like vulnerability assessments of the water system or emergency contingency plans?
I believe it would.
Okay.
Yeah,
I guess that's the only other thing I think if you wanted to consider making a change, because you do have to do, the water systems are required to do vulnerability assessments periodically.
well, there's
If you think
but there's a planning category.
It's a little bit different than what you would think of as planning. vulnerability assessments.
Not planning. The general type 5, basic data collection research. Could fall under that, or it could fall under administrative, I think, without needing specifically to call it the type plan. But engineering surveys are covered, feasibility surveys are covered, asset management. So a lot of those survey types are covered into that type 5.
And then I just noticed this thing, digital twins. What does that mean?
It is basically a digital clone of our water system to basically for studies and stuff. Basically, we can simulate how a scenario would happen in our system digitally and without actually having to perform tests in the physical space. Yeah.
Oh, that's like your hydraulic model?
It aids in hydraulic modeling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, if there's no other discussion, it sounds like the council's comfortable with all the edits that you've made, Eric. So I think the next step is for us. I propose that we publish this draft for public review. So we'll get a motion for that.
Well, I motion that it.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
I.
So I believe you provided also a clean version of that list with the revisions made, but I think rather than concurred, Eric, could you change the header to say a draft version of the list and then submit an ADA compliant version to ERP for publication?
Sure, we'll do. Yep.
Great. Yeah, you can just send that by email to ERP and CC me, and then I'll see that it went through, and then we can get it in the next version of the environmental notice, which double check the schedule now.
I believe the 16th, March 16th is the submittal deadline.
Yep.
Get it to us
So
by then.
March 16th, so it would publish in the 23rd edition, Eric. So then it would run for 2 weeks there for public comment.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate
Thank you.
you guys making the revisions and for coming to the meeting today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is that all, Michelle, for our exemptions committee?
Oh.
Okay. All right, great. We're moving along quickly. This is great. And now I'll have item number 5, review of the Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism, repeal of Chapter 11-200.1 and adoption of Chapter 15-20 Hawaii Administrative Rules.
Chair, I'll go ahead and start that. Staff has been continuing to discuss potential rule changes that we want to give you a heads up on, and then possibly place it on the next agenda with a discussion draft. So I wanted to just highlight a few of the areas that we're talking about. One is the issue of secondary indirect impacts and cumulative impacts. For decades, this has been it's been a debate as to whether what not that these need to be considered. There's no debate there, but what they mean, how broad they are, and whether there could be clearer language that would guide agencies and applicants in covering this required disclosure and analysis. So we're looking at those definitions initially and where they fall in the rules to see if there could be a clearer way to define them first and then to provide guidance in the rules to the agencies and applicants who are, one, preparing an EA or an EIS, and two, making a determination for that as either approving or accepting authority.
I would see a benefit to that, and would be happy to provide some input there or participate in that discussion. I think it also a third prong would be that it helps the public understand a little better what's not that a lot of the public dives into the rules, but when they do dive in, could help sort of calibrate what those expectations are for cumulative. As I think sometimes there's, an expectation that it will cover everything, right? And having, that scope maybe defined a little bit. There's certainly a lot of variety of how cumulative is handled in 343, everything from a paragraph to 15 pages, right, in documents. I mean, it's very broadly tackled.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Michelle. Chair, can I continue?
Yes.
Okay. We've also been discussing and throw into that primary impact versus indirect impact, because that's in addition to secondary impact, those are concerns that sometimes are not immediately clear what they're intended to have disclosed. What we were discussing and may be able to provide in a written form in a future meeting would be whether the use of the term direct impact should be direct adverse impact in order to help provide that guidance as to what the intent of the statute and the rules is for disclosure. The next one, and this one I'm hoping we'll get some help from you on this. The rules, the statute and the rules cite projects and programs as actions that may be determined to need preparation of an EA or an EIS. And that has, over the years, morphed into what's known as a programmatic EA or EIS. However, the word programmatic never occurs once in the statute or the rules. And so often people will say, well, wait a minute, what is a programmatic EIS? And what does it, the rules currently in the statute say multiple sites, multiple phases. It does provide some guidance, but it only provides it in relation to a program. So we're thinking of trying to come up with a definition for a programmatic EA or EIS that would live in those sections and give some guidance as to whether, what kind of, is that just add to the workload of folks? Is it a way to be more efficient or more accountable in terms of disclosing actions that, multiple actions that will affect adjacent geographic sites, multiple actions that will affect sequential actions on one site. In other words, it's in there, but labeling it programmatic because that's never in there, has led to some confusion over what that means, and whether you have to follow that up for every action, say in a programmatic EIS, with a new EIS when a particular action covered under the programmatic EIS it moves forward to planning and permitting. So that's an area that we're hopeful that we can get some input on. And another one, which I think we mentioned last time, is we're looking at whether we really need to have a supplemental EIS in the rules. If what is happening, in fact, is just doing a new EIS when an action or program has been substantially changed, either in the program itself or the environment in which it operates. Say you have hypothetically a 30-year-old EIS for a project that never moved because of economic unfeasibility or other issues, or didn't get permitting, and a applicant or agency wants to revisit that, possibly with a reduced scope. Say that it's an affordable housing project and it started out with 200 units and now it's going to be an affordable housing project with 100 units. Does that mean that there needs to be a brand new EIS for the 100 units? Is there, or does the, so is there a need for a supplemental with any change, or only for changes that might have additional adverse impacts? So you see projects, some projects go from 100 units to 500 units, and some projects go from 100 units to 50 units. And should they be treated the same in terms of the requirement for additional disclosure? So that's something we're, discussing in-house. And another one, yeah, go ahead.
Ask you, are you also looking at time limit? So, some EAs have been published and then there's been no project development. Are you also looking at time limits?
Chair, that would be a regulatory issue, not a disclosure issue.
Yeah.
So there are, some of the terms and conditions placed on decision and orders, say before the Land Use Commission, on a docket that the Land Use Commission then adopts the decision and order on. They have time limits for substantial start of substantial construction. They have time limits on various things. We regard that as a regulatory action, whereas Chapter 343 is a disclosure action, and that there are of course advocates and stakeholders that would like to amend Chapter 343 to set an arbitrary sunset date or termination date on EISs. We do not support that. We believe that should be supported by changes in the environment or to the project, rather than setting an arbitrary date for having to do a new one. Because there's plenty of room for that in the planning and permitting process, the regulatory process that the decision makers have at their disposal when projects that have an environmental disclosure go forward to a decision-making body.
Okay. I do
That
feel
was likely
go ahead. No, go ahead.
for a statutory change. I don't know if that's something that could be done through rulemaking.
Yeah,
anyway,
no,
so.
cannot.
Yeah. I'm sure you hear, Tom, a lot of people calling you, asking you, why some EA or EIS may be old, and why isn't there a new document being done? So I'm sure you probably hear it on your end. And I think people have just mentioned it to me on my end. That's all, But now we know, so we can have a good answer.
Chair, if I can editorialize a little from my own personal perspective, doesn't necessarily represent that of OPSD or ERP. As I mentioned before, every project has an opponent in Hawaii, and opponents, brilliant folks, are always looking for a way to stop projects as early as possible. And so I think what we will continue to see is, efforts to stop projects at the environmental disclosure phase, as opposed to where I believe it belongs, which is at the decision makers phase. When you get to, when a project moves forward for a permit to proceed. So just a personal view.
Yeah, that's great. I'm so sorry you hear that construction behind you. It must be hard to work.
No, we want our new fire alarm system.
We're getting used to it.
Yes, I guess the safety far outweighs the initial discomfort.
Yep. Now, to be fair, this is a concrete building.
Yeah.
The amount of combustibles in it are extremely small. So, nonetheless.
Don't even go there.
Right. So let's see, we got other areas that we've been looking at that we, just at this point, it's purely for discussion and, just to kind of let you know what we've been, looking at, simply because, I think I think it's the council's job to provide us with input on, proposed rule changes. Tom, have I missed stuff that you think we ought to mention?
I think that captures the big things. One thing that's tangentially related to this is that as this process unfolds and people start hearing about it and are submitting questions or comments to us, we're thinking of funneling them through you, so through the council, so it's done in a transparent, public manner, as opposed to just trying to answer each submittal on their own. Yeah. Basically, as requests come in, we'll kind of put it as testimony or on an agenda and run it through the next EAC meeting.
Yes,
but I want to make sure you're on board with that.
I'm fine with that. I'm not sure how the rest of the council feels, but I think at the end of the day, as much information is out there for everyone who deals with 343, it is really important. I will add that I've reached out to many of the planning firms, and I did get a Barbara Natale from Group 70. She's working with within the APA Hawaii collective, so they're all going through the rules as the APA. So I think that's good, but I think it's not necessarily the planners who are doing the EAs or such as people as Michelle. It's probably people on the other end, who don't understand the process, or the proponents, or the people who would appeal the decision. So I think that's where I want to hear more from, like the organizations that depend on 343 for them to, have all of their native Hawaiian traditional cultural rights, archaeological rights, CZM, SMA, like all those issues are addressed within 343. And I think that's where it's most important. So I'll continue to do my outreach for people to let them know as well that, we do need a lot of comments, because if the general layperson can't understand the rules, then, they're the ones who kind of have to go through it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But I'm fine with that. Michelle, Rachel, Mark, Jay, are you okay with them agendizing the testimony so we can discuss it? And
yes.
Yeah, I
That's fine.
agree too. I think it's good. Then we get, a lot of people's different opinions and views, the council. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we just should, have some clarity on how we're managing those comments as they come in and what those expectations are. Are we have a spreadsheet? Are we maintaining original copies, whether they're letters or emails? Like where are those saved? How are we doing it? I'm just thinking about like how we respond to comments on EAs or EISs, right? I mean, it can be a very large effort, and I just would want to set up expectations at the beginning for how we're gonna be tracking that over time. And then at the end, who's responding? Are we responding, or is it just input and thank you for your comment? And that, feeds the process. We don't have to decide that now. So I like the idea. I guess I just want to get in the weeds on the level of effort and then expectations for how we do it moving forward.
I kind of agree with you too, Michelle, a little bit too, because when I've submitted testimony on not necessarily environmental, but other issues to the state, and also to the, Hawaii County, they offer comments, you have comments on it, but a lot of times they never get back. So I'm not saying they don't get them. And I know a lot of times, especially with the county, the state, they don't, they need to take comments, but they don't necessarily have to respond, how the public wants. But I can see what you're saying too. Yeah, a lot of times, you send comments and you never hear anything. I mean, did they receive it? Whatever. And I'm sure, most of the time the state may get a lot of comments or, whatever, but I can understand your point too on that.
May I make a suggestion, Chair? If we're able to put a discussion draft on a future EAC agenda, then I'm guessing that there will be a public attendance at the meeting and comments on that discussion draft. And then because this is a sunshine meeting, those comments will be recorded. That won't necessarily mean that there's an obligation, Mark, for the council to respond to the comments. They could if they chose. It's going to be your call. But at least they would see that their comments were recorded someplace in an official way, and that might help a little bit with that concern that comments go into a black hole and never come out again.
And so, Mary Alice, you're saying we do not have to respond to the comments, but ultimately it would be reflected in whatever changes if it made sense.
Well, in the minutes first.
Yes.
And then, and of course, our meetings are posted online.
Yeah.
So that somebody who makes a comment, a member of the public that makes a comment, will be able to see it, hear it, and then see it moved into meetings, official minutes. But no, I think, Chair, that's going to be your call, is whether you want to actually respond to comments, as they're made, or take them into consideration and, deliberate on them further before, or, then see if they end up in a subsequent draft as a change.
Okay, that'd be great. I do have a question on the process. So, right now we're just talking about the rules, but we haven't really incorporated any changes. I mean, we have yellow lined and underlined areas. Is there a time when we're thinking of moving to the next step after public comment? Is in your mind, are you thinking we're going to the end of the year to get public comment and then take all those public comments and all those ERP suggestions, and then we'll go and be doing new rules, and then we'll be sending them to the legislative committee or whatever those next steps are?
Well, actually, after the council makes a recommendation on a final set of amendments to the rules, then the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development will send a request to the governor to go out for a public hearing. And that could either be one hearing as a hybrid meeting like this is, or it could be a roadshow like the previous council did in 2017, 18, and 19, I think, to all inhabited islands, or, I mean, yes, so that's, and then only after that, if substantive comments need to be addressed, there'll be a second round of public hearings on a revised draft. And then only after that process would OPSD make a recommendation to the governor to adopt the revised rules. So we're not looking at something that'll be done in the next month or so.
Okay, I think
Then-
that's
So then the public comments that are coming in, we're talking about the public comments after we would release
Yes,
the
that's-
proposed when rulemaking starts, so to speak, is when
that's
this
a
public
formal-
comments.
That's a formal process. So
That's when we would be involved on it. Then we would be the keepers of all comments received on
yes,
the
those
proposed
from
rulemaking.
the public hearing or hearings, those will be recorded. And if they recommend substantive changes to the draft and it appears that that's something that the council wants to recommend to OPSD, then we go into another round of new draft, new public hearing, and then, but yes, so different, Michelle, to your comment, I think it's a different level of formal public comment, but I think there needs to be one before the council, before we request governor's approval to go out for public hearing with a what is normally called a final draft rule revisions.
When you say one before, one meeting before, one. What do you mean by?
I didn't actually,
Oh.
because I don't know how long it'll take.
I'm sensing it's kind of this iterative process we're in now where we came up with the draft and we're sharing it with you and it's comments.
I'm just trying to figure out where the public engagement
So
starts.
this will go around a little bit until I think we're basically all relatively comfortable with one set, or the set as it is at that point of rule. And that's what will be taken for formal rulemaking.
So you'll notice on your agenda, this is for discussion.
Yeah.
And not for action. That, Michelle, there'll be a future agenda where it'll be discussion and action. And at that point, the action that we'll be recommending is to for you to recommend that draft to go out to public hearing.
So I'm very thankful, Mary Alice, for what you have just explained. I would love to see more EAC members because I know Rachel's going to be terming off at the end of the year. And I do believe that, it'd be nice to actually have more EAC members on each island to represent the population. And so if there's a way to ask the governor, to assign more people and to keep Michelle on as and another governor's message, that would be great. So hopefully, it won't just be on 4 people or 5 people as we're moving forward. Yeah.
I have a question. The things that were raised before, direct impact versus direct adverse impact, programmatic definition, and supplemental EIS. Are we discussing that today? Those items? Or that's just these are items that we would like to discuss with the council?
I think it's up to the council members if you want to go ahead and discuss those. We're actually throwing out these topics to provide you with an opportunity. It's your choice.
But I would say we don't have, I wouldn't say we have actual words that really get to what we're trying to say. We want to address these concerns. We're still coming up with the right way to get language. If you want to participate in that or react to what we come up with, these are possibilities.
I'm fine with what you're proposing with the second, the vocabulary and also the programmatic VA. I think at the end of the day, Tom, you're in probably the best position because you see what's coming through and you probably get all those questions too. So I rely on your expertise because you are that person who's answering the phone. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, again, it's clarity for the general public, for me, to make sure that they understand how they can intervene or discuss the project, and is the document discussing all the impacts that they think by law should be covered, not necessarily what that bill SB 2322 on historic sites, right? Like traditional cultural properties is not necessarily a trigger on the state level, but it is on the federal level. So hopefully I said that correctly. Michelle, correct me if I'm incorrect. But yeah, I don't have any problem if you're working on the vocabulary. I like to see the language, of course, and how it's laid out. I think that if comments come in from APA Hawaii, we'll definitely see a little bit more, direct questions on things. But other than that, I don't have any comments besides the fact that I'm in approval of what you guys are looking at the moment. But maybe it's a phone call offline too, right? Like maybe you have a lot more on your list of things that you see.
Well, we're trying to be transparent about it. I'm kind of being honest, and I don't have the words yet that should go into the rules. So we're fumbling our way through, coming up with something. And I guess in a public way, this iterative process of us doing it and you responding to that is maybe the best way, rather than having a bunch of one-off private phone calls that could
No, and so maybe what I will recant that part. I think what I'm asking is, do you get complaints about the rules? Because it's one thing to look at it and address it, but I'm wondering if you hear like general complaints that don't make sense, just
I get a wide range of commentary coming in. Sometimes it's unclarity. They're just looking for clarification. Sometimes they have their idea of what the rules mean. And I'm not in a position to say they're necessarily right or wrong, but here's what the words are. Haven't had a lot of people say that the rules are just outright wrong and ought to be different. It's more trying to say, what do they mean in the context of some situation, or what can I do about this?
Yeah. I was just wondering, because I'm sure, people can vent and they can be frustrated, and, they have their own concerns, which is, right for them. And, of course, the state of Hawaii can't get through hard issues unless we have those proponents really talking about the issues that are of importance to them, right? And I feel like if the EA doesn't address their issues, but it addresses the issues by law, then it should be the document that stands, So that's my general thought about rulemaking and about, EAs and 343s and that. But does anyone else have any comments?
Yeah, I have a few comments. I tried to take down what the Mary Alice you were mentioning as the big items. Is that possible to identify those in the meeting minutes? Of these are the discussion items that would be presented to the EA, to the council, so that we have that for the record. And then the other thing is, I think it sounds to me, based on our current discussion, that there might need to be some input from the council to develop the language, to try and clarify what does that mean for some of the items that you had identified, versus I think you all writing something and then sending it to us for feedback. I think that might be less productive than if we say to identify a specific item. So, for example, I'll pick one straight out: direct versus direct adverse impact, right? And I'm going to give my opinion of how I stand on that. So my opinion is, regardless of what the legislation may imply, you could have a project that has a positive impact, right? And that kind of discussion in the disclosure document, I think, should be discussed, right? So I would prefer that the language remain not as specific, that it's direct impacts, whether they be positive or negative, right? Or adverse, I should say, not negative. So that's just one, I think, item that you had mentioned, that where the members of the council could provide some feedback of, and then we could then do an analysis of whether or not it makes sense to actually suggest a change to the language of the rules and what those impacts could mean.
Mhm.
I know one of the last iterations of revisions to NEPA CEQ rules before they were pulled was to revise a significant effect to be an adverse, specifically that if an effect was significant, it had to be a negative or adverse effect. So I know that was added to clarify, and it came up on a project I worked on where we had it was a combined HEPA NEPA document, and on the NEPA side, they're like, oh, it's a positive effect, then it can't be significant, because by definition, at the time, significance could only be determined if it was an adverse effect. But that wasn't true on the HEPA side in 343, where you could have a significant positive effect. So it matters, but maybe that's something to consider. That nuance. Again, I don't agree. I think you can have a significant positive effect. I think limiting it to adverse. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're thinking about significance and development of mitigation, usually you don't have to develop mitigation, right? If you have a significant positive effect. Oh no, it's too good. How are we going to offset the goodness? Usually that's not the problem, and the idea for identifying significance, right, is to say, well, how are we going to offset, minimize, or mitigate this negative effect? So something to consider.
And one thing at HCPO, when we were in that discussion forum after we made that presentation, is somebody was asking, I think it was Maui County accepting authority, and they had a certain case where they had two different authorities, and I think it came up, and then Aonana kind of was trying to explain more specifically what accepting authority would mean. So I think, there's still a lot of not quite understanding maybe the vocabulary as is on some of this stuff. So I'll be happy to look at it if you can send me the Word document, I'm sure you have one, right? For the track.
Or if we're talking like this for the next meeting, they've got suggested text, I think is what you were saying before. So if they provide, suggested edits, then we can comment on it. We can be thinking about it in the interim, thinking about, I know that I'd be more prepared at a follow-up meeting to provide more constructive input.
Plus, there may be areas that you have encountered that you think could be clarified or changed.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to know what those are.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Presuming this will be on the next meeting, we can get you a copy of the most recent iteration. There's been some minor changes so far, but there's an iteration that is, I guess, beyond what you last got received. So we can make sure you get that. And
I would.
Current state of the discussion.
Yeah, so Tom, I agree with what we've heard so far. Probably, like, if you could maybe send it in advance, I think like Michelle said, to look at it, but then maybe we can discuss at our next meetings, not necessarily all of the suggested changes, to some of the wording, but at least some of them. And then, maybe the next meeting, some more of them on that too. But, maybe have an initial list, and then, we can break it up over time, due to meeting time constraints and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and my thought was that I know that, Tom, you were noting that you were not necessarily sure that you had the language or the direction. So even just having the topics, like with a short bullet point list, like if there's 4 or 5, like or questions of like one thing is the addressing direct and versus direct adverse effects, or another one of, like giving us those and saying what.
Attention.
Oh, are you guys gonna fire alarm
An
it?
emergency has been reported.
Okay.
All occupants
I was
walk
just gonna
to
say
the nearest
topics. We
stairway,
can add them to the agenda,
walk
even if you
down
don't have
your
language. It was all good.
or main lobby.
So this
Do
is a
not
real
use
fire
the
alarm.
elevator. Walk to the nearest stairway. Do not use the elevator.
Is that a
Walk to
real
the
fire
nearest
alarm?
stairway.
Oh, I can't even hear.
Should we adjourn? That sounds loud.
Yeah,
And
that's
is
a
it,
fire alarm. Go ahead.
I wonder if it is a test. You never
Is
know
it-
something. Yeah,
is
is
it
it
a
a test?
Or is it a real fire alarm? Mary Alice, you guys are on mute. Sorry.
Oh,
We can't hear you because you're on mute. Oh, sorry.
Walk to the nearest stairway.
Maybe that
Mm.
is
I think
Do
they
not
muted
use
it for
the
our
elevator.
Fire alarm. Okay.
They muted it.
Walk to the nearest.
Sorry, we will have to skip
Mm.
number 8, public comment, and I'll adjourn the meeting at 2:13 p.m. for the Environmental Council.
Okay.
Attention.